What is it?
Hey gang, me and Sunny here, and this week for our final sci-fi extravaganza, we are taking a look at a Filmation Saturday morning show called Space Academy. Now, Filmation was a animation and live action studio that did a lot of programs for Saturday afternoon and kids and things like that. Some of their other better known animated shows include The New Adventures of Superman, The Adventures of Batman, Fat Albert, Star Trek, the animated one, Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, and Flash Gordon. Among their live action shows, they had Arc 2, which was sort of a dystopian sci fi adventure set on Earth, in which scientists traveled around in this double arc, basically a SUV, and tried to help people regain civilization, agriculture, stuff like that. They did the second live action of the character Captain Marvel, not the Marvel one. This is the one from started out in the 40s, in which he was a little boy, and if you said the magic word Shazam, he would turn into the adult Captain Marvel. And throughout the 40s and 50s, he fought a lot of litigation with DC, saying that he was just an imitation of Superman, which infringed on their copyright. But there was enough difference, I think. That's why the case dragged on to the mid 50s before they finally just got out of the comic book business and sold their characters to DC. But they didn't sell the title, which is how Marvel got Captain Marvel. So when DC brought the character back out, the comic was renamed Shazam, hence the TV show Shazam. And then they also made a spin-off or companion show, The Secret of Isis. This was an Egyptian superhero. This school teacher found this amulet when she was in Egypt, and with it she could become Isis with all of her powers, which seemed to be unlimited. And there was also my personal favorite, The Ghostbusters, not the Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd version. This one had Forrest Tucker and Larry Storch of F Troop fame, and Bob Burns as Tracy the Gorilla. I highlighted one of their episodes a couple years ago, so if you want more about them, you can check that one out. Space Academy starred Jonathon Harris, the great Jonathon Harris, best known as Dr. Smith on Lost in Space, but he had a very, very long career. Didn't make a lot of films, but appeared on a lot of TV, from Twilight Zone to Night Gallery, Macmillan and Wife, Battlestar Galactica, Arc 2, and he made a lot of animated and Saturday morning appearances. He was the voice of Athos on the animated Three Musketeers segment of the Banana Split show. Also supplied the voice for the cartoons My Favorite Martian, as well as a character named John on Freakazoid. Uh, some of his other work included a role on the 50s crime show The Third Man, which stop chewing the wires. Which, unlike the movie in which Harry Lime was a villain, here he's more of a anti-hero, along the lines of Simon Templar. He was always solving crimes and seeing justice done, but people always thought the worst of him. And Harris was his business manager, more or less. And of course, on Saturday morning, he was the director of Charles Nelson Riley in Uncle Croc's Block, in which he was the put upon stage manager. A lot of comedy between those two. The only other really big name that came from this was Pamela Ferdin, who was a very popular child star. She was in The Beguiled with Clint Eastwood, and was also the voice of Lucy in several Charlie Brown cartoons. Most prominently, A Boy Named Charlie Brown. She was also on Star Trek. Had appearances on Beretta and Chips, and also a lot of the Saturday morning shows like Shazam and stuff. But one of her last roles was in the horror film Toolbox Murders with a fellow Saturday morning TV star Wesley Ure from Land of the Lost. It was a very exploitation-oriented film, although she did not do any nudity. She was the victim of a kidnapping, but there was a lot of nudity from the other murders and things. And, well, it's a... If you don't mind a lot of sleaze, you might enjoy it. But be that as it may. We start with an introduction to what is Space Academy.
Welcome to man's most magnificent achievement in the conquest of space, the man-made planetoid, Space Academy, founded in the star year 3732.
Yep. It is basically a ship built in a meteor, comet, asteroid, whatever, that travels throughout the universe teaching teenagers about space exploration so that they, when they become adults, can be professional space explorers. Anywho, they are over the planet Zalon, which is going to explode in a matter of 24 to 48 hours, something like that. It's the normal life cycle of a planet, and they're there to observe it and take readings and things so that, better understand. When Adrian gets a mysterious signal from the planet.
Commander, look at this.
What is it?
It's gone now. It was a burst of red.
That's impossible. There's no life on that planet. It's been known to be lifeless. But what if there is someone there? Better make sure. So, Grandpoo. Yes, the commander's name is Grandpoo. Along with Adrian and the brother and sister Laura and Chris, along with Todd G and the robot Peepo, get in one of their cruisers, shuttles, I can't remember what they call it, and head down, leaving Paul in charge because you can't have some background player being the one running the station. Those are some pretty good special effects, especially for a low-budget show. Nice models, too. Anyways, as they're traveling to the planet, a mysterious force appears. Paul, seeing this on his monitors, tries to warn them.
Seeker, this is Academy Control. There is something following you. Come in, Seeker. Map control. Map control.
Looks like whatever is on that planet doesn't want them to be in contact with each other. What is going on the planet? Well, I'm glad you asked.
Thank you for protecting our young ones, but do not fear. The invaders will be examined and classified. If they prove hostile, they will be dealt with.
Wow, that didn't sound ominous at all. I'm sure there are going to be no massive amounts of violence here. It's aimed at kids. They had very stringent rules back in the 70s. Anyway, the shuttle makes its way down to the planet. Grandpoo sends out the students to investigate, while he and Peepo will get back up into the orbit of the planet and see if they can't communicate Space Academy to see what the message was.
Communications are totally inoperative, Commander.
So are the ship's controls. They appear to be frozen.
Oh, doesn't look good for Grandpoo. Meanwhile, down on the planet, the students make a discovery that will ultimately prove to be something they should leave alone.
Some sort of crystal formation. They hardly look natural. They're more like cut gemstones. They're identical.
They just had to pick them up. Well, the little boy's not going to stand for that and puts them in a force field. That'll show them.
Look, I don't think you understand.
This planet is gonna break up soon. It's gonna demolish itself, turn into particles of space dust.
We can't stay here and you can't stay here.
I can stay here. I'm not afraid.
Well, so much for negotiating with the child. And just to prove how unafraid he is, he gives him a little concert.
That's it, the sound I heard before.
I guess that's a space slide whistle? But things look dire for the group. Maybe, as they are brother and sister, Chris and Laura can think of something.
One chance. We can try mind linking.
Right. But we're gonna need everybody's help.
A mind link. Now you're just ripping off Star Trek. I might as well see if it works.
Keep concentrating. It's beginning to work. It's working!
Oh, well. Okay then. Meanwhile, up in orbit, Commander Grandpoo has discovered that the energy that's holding his ship is actually sentient. And so he starts to have a tete-a-tete with it.
The boy child?
He is one we have cared for since he was found here.
But if he's not one of you, you must let him go.
He is content to remain with us.
If you insist upon keeping him, he will always be a stranger here. You cannot condemn him to such a lonely future.
Yep. See, when the world explodes, the eggs will hatch. Now, they're quite willing to let the Space Academy kids go, but the little boy, they've been caring for him. But their words, or Grandpoo's words, along with an assurance that he will educate the boy, because, Space Academy, they consent. And so Grandpoo heads down to the planet to get everybody off, where the boy shows he has quite another talent.
I want to stay here.
I don't believe it.
But he's not counted on the silver tongue of Commander Grandpoo.
If you come with us, you will see and learn many things about the great world out there. You will develop skills even more marvelous than your disappearing trick. And most important of all, you will be loved.
He's not convinced. Luckily, his other family, they make the decision for him.
Young one, we thank you for protecting our children, but he who speaks to you can be trusted. We believe him. Go with him.
I thank you for caring for me.
They taught him manners. Well, everybody gets back on the ship, and then we get to see the birthing. Pretty cool. New life in the universe. The boy does not have a name, so one should be given.
What is your name, young man?
I don't know.
Well, then, I'll give you one. I think we'll call you Loki.
That's nice. So Adrian and Tegar have to go and ruin it.
You know, on the ancient planet Earth, Loki was the Norse god of mischief. I think that name suits you very well.
You can say that again.
Ha ha ha. Loki does have another ability he then demonstrates.
What are those colored things she's putting into a bowl?
Laura? We can't see what she's doing. How do you know what she's doing in there? Do you have some kind of special vision?
I don't know. I just see her.
Yep. Got them old X-ray vision like Superman. Because Laura comes out with a bowl full of apples. Loki's first. And he's just so happy to be around them that he decides to give another impromptu concert. Always have to end on a high note of comedy, more or less. This was a pretty good show. It wasn't fast-paced. It was more educational and always about teamwork and never judging. You know, typical things for a kid to learn. Great special effects, especially for the time. As you can tell from the model work, they were inspired by Star Wars, as most of these things were. Now, interestingly, the following year after this season, they came up with Jason of Star Command, which was going to be a part of Space Academy. And they had originally planned for Jonathon Harris to reprise his role. And there are some differing stories about why. Now, the producers have said that they had announced the show and that he was starring in it before they had negotiated with him. And rather upset with this, he rejected doing the show. Now, the other story, and something I find a little more believable, is that this had started out as a half-hour show. Well, Jason of Star Command was going to be about a 15-minute serialized story, part of a larger show. And as such, Harris would be offered half of what he made for Space Academy. So he turned it down. And instead they hired James Doohan to play a new commander. And then when Jason Star Command had its second season, which went back to a half-hour format, they had another new Space Commander. And actually half the cast got replaced. Except for the villain Dragos, played by the great Sid Haig. Ooh, God, he scared the crap out of me as a kid. Anyway, a lot of the episodes would revolve around Loki and his powers being sort of a Deus Ex Machina. And of course, Jonathon Harris would always come in to give a little logical argument to whatever it was they were facing, and the kids would learn, And since it was an ensemble, they would have different ones be the focus of the episode. Like this one was more about Adrian, but you would have other ones that would center on Paul or Tigar or Laura or brother Chris, and there was always the typical teen romances in there between Chris and Adrian as the couple. Funny enough, Pamela Ferdin was originally supposed to be Chris's twin sister, but there's about a foot difference in their height, so they couldn't be twins. That would be a little odd, but yeah. It was a good show. It was a fun show. Very educational, but it didn't feel educational. Great sets. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just so 70s with those seats and the armrests that would come down around them. I was surprised they didn't have shag carpeting. But yeah, it's a fun show, especially if you're a fan of Jonathon Harris. Now, when I was a kid, I had trouble reconciling that this character that Harris was playing wasn't going to turn out to be a sniveling coward who was going to sell everybody out from under to save his own skin, a la Dr. Smith. But no, he's a great actor, and he put a lot of charisma, charm, and just empathy into his performance as a teacher. So yeah, fun little show for kids. Adults, they can enjoy some of it too. Not a lot of action, but a lot of suspense. Dealing with all kinds of things. And of course, you had to have a cute robot, Peepo, who also carried over into Jason of Star Command. If you're going to build something like that, you're going to use it. That's about all there is to say about this one. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Right, Commander. We'll be here. With whomever or whatever we find out there.
Good luck and good hunting.
Right, Commander. Let's go.
Go.